Okay, so listen up. Before anybody takes my words out of context, I just want to say that ever since the Deputy Director of LTA Bus Assets, RWHR, his initials, got ousted from Bus Assets to become the Director of Private Hire like taxis, the LTA staff immediately placed an order for a demonstrator unit of a BYD B18 articulated bus, bendy bus. This is what I was told. Now, obviously, that bus is full electric. Uh, Again, I was told that the model is BYD B18 and it's just one unit. My personal thoughts on this are that I wasn't expecting the culture inside to change that fast. But this is or was a telltale sign that that man, that evil man, is literally hated by everybody inside that department. That department used to have the highest turnover rate in the whole LTA bus departments. Because initially, I thought it was going to take like years and years and years, like decades, to get rid of this like toxic culture. Because it's like, very top down bureaucracy. Yeah. Because you have to understand, like, for a government organization that, like, it's infamous for, like, uh, there are lots of horror stories inside. I mean, like, for it to, like, go 180 degrees so fast is already quite fascinating in itself. Now, here's the thing. This is still intel. This is still a rumor. I know it's from a kind of reliable source, but obviously I'm not going to state the source, but you can just take it as a 50-50 for now. Even I wasn't expecting it to happen this quickly as well. Because my main point is that even if they do not buy an electric bendy bus demonstrator for trial, even if it doesn't happen now, it's fine. At the very least, that evil man has already been ousted out of this department. The worst is already over. And I think things, obviously, like, you know Singapore buses in general, it's like plagued with a lot of issues such as like the bus driver shortage and stuff like that. That's a whole different story, but like at the very least, for like this aspect, trying to replace single decker buses, like two single decker buses with one bendy bus to save manpower, that is something that is like feasible. And as I've already mentioned before, like the worst is already over. I don't think they're ever gonna like, when it comes to bus assets, like R&D, research and development per se, I don't think it's gonna like sink any further anymore. So again, don't take my words out of context. It is still an internal rumor, but even if they do not buy bendy buses like right now, like this instant, I was even surprised that it happened immediately. But even if they don't buy it now, it does show that the working culture inside of like LTA right now, it will not immediately, but it will steadily improve. At least like whoever's making these decisions, they won't make decisions as bad as like that previous clown who did all the three-door, two-staircase, double-decker bus nonsense, it wouldn't be as bad as that. Again, even if it doesn't happen now, the good thing is that like the whole general direction that like this new team of like bus assets people that they're taking, it's actually a lot better than what y'all have been experiencing in the past like decade or like the past 5 years per se, when that whole 3D2S thing, because it's like I've heard that like people inside they were like really unhappy of him. I don't know if it's coming from like the bosses or just like the normal staff in general, but yeah, it he screwed up that R&D so badly that they had to like do this massive reshuffle, which already tells you something about how bad like bus assets was as a department. And yeah, I'm glad that they're like stepping up, because as I mentioned, even if they don't procure the bendy buses now, uh, the existing man A24s, they still have up till like 2015 plus 17 is like 2032. And if they get like 3 years of extended lifespan, yeah, now they are actually doing paperwork to ensure that like as in the new paperwork is done so that when buses receive lifespan extensions, it is no longer just 2 years. It will be 3 years if it passes. This is another intel. So technically, if you let the Mandis, the A24s, live up to 20 years old, 2015 plus 20, you have up till 2035 for this new team or like the future team of bus assets to buy new electric bendy buses. Obviously, like a few years before 2035, you have to buy a demonstrator unit, and then you would follow up with a production batch. It's just like how the BYDs, you start with 4013 and then you bring in the production batch. It's the same thing. So right now, I'm not saying that they have to do it immediately. I'm not even advocating for that. But I will at least say that they have maybe slightly less than 10 years to really decide whether they want to continue with this bendy bus procuring thing or not. It's a new team after all, so I'm just saying that like the good thing is that the management inside has changed and there is actually some time to consider whether they want to continue with like high capacity buses in general or just downgrade everything to single decker and midi buses, citing the MRT network expansion, and then downgrading everything else, like keeping the routes but downgrading everything else to SD and midi buses like Enviro 100 EV. Again, it's a little bit too far-fetched, but it's like realistically, if they are not going to procure bendy buses, they wouldn't even think of procuring double-decker buses. Like the double-decker buses are pretty much just like a short-term solution if they are serious about the MRT network expansion and the downsizing of buses thingy. I mean, that thing is a bit too far-fetched to say now, but I have heard of like plans for that. So right now they need to decide if they still want like if they're still serious about high capacity buses or they just want to run single decks per se. So yeah, they have like less than 10 years to decide whether they want to buy bendy buses, and they have slightly more time to decide whether they even want to run high capacity buses in future or not. I've already talked about like the whole whether you should use SD, DD, bendy or anything. I've already talked about that in like other videos. I even did like a bendy bus suitability ranking for all bus services in Singapore right now. So yeah, but at least right now I don't really see the culture inside LTA, the new bus assets, deteriorating, just fingers crossed, anytime. Whether they actually buy a bendy bus in the next few, like 5 years or so, is one thing. The main point is that with the right people in power, you can make good things happen. I'm thankful for whoever decided to rotate that clown out of bus assets. If you still didn't understand what I'm saying, well, as in like if you still don't understand, it's fine. The main point is that like in summary, bus assets deputy director ousted, a new person would take over, and said new person allegedly, as in it's a 50-50, has ordered one unit of BYD B18 electric bus, articulated bus, bendy bus for trial. Whether this turns out to be true or not, it's not really a big deal. Like I've said, they got 10 years, slightly less than 10 years from now, to decide whether they want to continue with bendy buses or not. So that's kind of like the end of my message. But I just want to say that ultimately, I am still an outsider. I will not be venturing into the Singapore bus industry for obvious reasons because I'm not Singaporean. But for the new generation who is like actually interested to like pursue buses in general, be it as a bus captain, like as a bus driver, interchange staff, or you actually want to go inside of LTA and do good things, I highly encourage you to do so because this country genuinely needs more people like you, bus enthusiasts. As in like being able to separate like a hobby and like actual work. But like as long as you have the passion, I highly encourage you to do so. I know it's not easy to just get rid of the toxic culture that's within bus assets like overnight, but I'm confident that as long as they keep this up, like they are on the right track. And we might actually see progress. Because I'm like, even if you're not able to save some of your bus routes from rationalization, I talked about this in many other videos about how you should do rationalization in general. It's inevitable, but it's like, it just depends on the way you do it. But one way to be more, one way to conserve your resources is really to use one bendy bus as a substitute for two single decker buses for like the shorter distance routes or for routes like 184 859 962 858 883 114 159 for a split shift, so on and so forth. But yeah, at least you there is still some way to tackle like the manpower crunch when it comes to like the bus drivers in Singapore right now, because that's exactly the same thing that Japan is doing right now. They're training bus drivers to become bendy bus certified, their bendy bus license, and then they're widening the roads a little bit to accommodate them. They're making the bus stops a little longer, I guess, as in like the yellow box in Japan. Actually, not all areas have yellow boxes. It's just a sign, but like they're just making a few small changes in terms of infrastructure to be able to accommodate bendy buses. And yeah, Singapore can do the same. As I've mentioned, the ITHs that they were crayoned in the late 2000s, early 2010s era, like Punggol Coast ITH, Buangkok, even Tuas, a lot of these new ITHs, they actually have bendy bus slots. Sure, it might be a few only, but it's like better than nothing. So it's not like there is no infrastructure to support bendy buses in Singapore. And just like what SG Buses has mentioned, they could make bendy buses park at layover at like near bus stops or carve out like a parking lot for them, and then they don't even have to like park at the ITHs anymore. They can just start at the current looping point for several feeder services. They go to like the ITHs, they go inside the ITH and then come out again, and then they terminate at the the current looping point basically. So it's kind of like the reverse order. It's no longer ITH, loop, then ITH. It's loop, ITH, then loop. Or it could be loop, MRT station, and loop for like the feeder services using bendy buses. They could experiment with that. Also, if there is really like a space constraint when it comes to like new ITHs in general. Because you have to understand that it's not like a lot of bendy bus slots, it's just a few per se for like the new ITHs. So yeah, I am quite optimistic with these changes, honestly. I mean, as usual, I'm not saying they would happen immediately, but the main point is that the clown is gone right now, and yeah, there is more potential right now as compared to like back then. I am not responsible if this rumor doesn't end up true. I am just a messenger, but I'm just saying, even if it doesn't happen now, the current culture, the management, it's along the right direction. I don't expect it to change immediately, but at least they're on the right track, like I've said. It's not really like just expect good things to come out of LT. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that like there is more hope right now as compared to the past, regardless of whether the BYD B18 bendy bus procurement rumor is even true in the first place. Even if BYD fails, they could try other bendy buses. Zhongtong has bendy buses, Yutong has bendy buses, MAN NLC 18E, they could try European models if they have the money. So, yeah, many options. And honestly, I was quite shocked that it happened so quickly as well. My future isn't in Singapore, but from some of my viewers, their future is in Singapore. So, yeah, this kind of concerns you. I'm just very happy that the citizens who are aware, like the citizens of like Singapore are aware, be it whether they are like bus fans or not bus fans, or just like even train fans. I mean, like, I'm just happy that you all, in whatever capacity, be it whether you work inside the public transport industry or LTA, you all made your voices heard, and I'm honestly really happy for that. Now I just hope that Singaporeans would do the same thing to their current incompetent incumbent government.